What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Flask tutorial series here on Neural 9. In this episode today, we're going to learn how to work with blueprints in Flask and how to make our applications more modular. So let us get right into it. Alright, so we're going to learn how to work with blueprints in Flask in this video today. And this is going to make our applications much more professional and much more modular. The main idea behind blueprints is that we take the functionality of our program, we take our application, and we split it up into multiple different components or blueprints, which are for the most part independent of one another. Now, of course, you can still reference them between each other. You can still interact with them. So you can redirect from one blueprint to another one, for example. But the idea is that I can work on blueprint A, you can work on blueprint B, and we don't have to really change the same files. We don't have to constantly interact with one another to merge some differences, because I'm working on the files of blueprint A, you're working on the files of blueprint B, and maybe occasionally we have to adjust some things because I changed the function signature or the name of an endpoint or something. But for the most part, we can work on these separate blueprints, and then all of them are combined into a central application. So you can have one blueprint for a to-do list application or a to-do list blueprint, or section, you could say. You can have one for a calendar, you can have one for a habit tracker, you can have one for a login page or for authentication in general. That's the basic idea. And then you can merge all of these blueprints into a central application, and this is just much more structure, and everything is much more modular and professional. Now, because of that, we're going to do everything from scratch here, because we're going to have a different directory structure. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a directory. I'm going to call this now blueprint app. Call this whatever you want. This is going to be our Flask application. And outside of this directory, I want to create a run.py file. And this is important because we're going to use this as a package. So right away, I'm going to say init dot, so underscore init underscore dot py is going to be placed in that directory to make it a package. Because in all the files, we want to have absolute paths. We want to say blueprint app dot blueprint name dot module dot something, whatever you want to import. You always want to use the absolute name here of the package blueprint app. This is going to be our application. Now, inside of this application, I'm going to have an appy file. This is going to be our central file where all of this stuff is going to be merged and created. And here what we're going to do is we're going to say from Flask import Flask. Obviously, we're going to also import URL4, or actually, I don't think we need that. We don't need URL4, and I also don't think that we need redirect. We're just going to import Flask. We're going to also import from Flask SQL Alchemy, import SQL Alchemy, because of course, we're also going to work with models here. So each blueprint will have its own models file, and also its own routes file. So we're going to have everything that we have in an application, we're going to have in a blueprint, other than maybe the database connection itself. And then from Flask migrate, we're going to import migrate. So we do the same thing as before. We create our database object here, and then we define our create app function. And what we're going to do here is we're going to do the same thing as before, create a Flask application. Let me just zoom in a little bit. Create a Flask application, underscore name, underscore. The template folder is going to be templates. Now, this is another thing. Each blueprint will have its own template folder. So app is going to be that, app config, even though I don't think we need to have a secret key. But yeah, we need to have, of course, a database connection. So actually, this is not like this. App config like this. And then the field is SQL Alchemy database URI. I'm going to set this equal to SQLite, and then 3 times slash current directory slash testdb.db, or call this whatever you want. We can call this for this video today blueprints.db, for example. And I don't think we need the secret key, so we're going to skip that. And we're going to say db init application app. And what we want to do then is here in this section, we're going to import and register all blueprints, which we don't have yet. So we don't have any blueprints yet, but here we're going to merge everything together. And once this is done, we're going to say migrate is equal to migrate appdb, and we're going to return the app. And in our run file, this is also not new. We're just going to import that from blueprint app.app, import create app. And then Flask app is going to be equal to create app. And if underscore underscore name underscore underscore is equal to underscore underscore main underscore underscore, then we want to do Flask app run. Host is going to be 0000, debug equals true. There you go. So this is our run file. You can see we use the absolute path here as well from blueprint app, and that is our app file here. Here we're going to merge everything, but we don't have anything to merge yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to create our first blueprint. And let's actually just use a to-do list blueprint as an example here. So we're going to create now a directory, which I'm going to call to-dos. This is going to be our to-dos blueprint. And our to-dos blueprint will also, or actually, will it be a package? Let me just double check. Yeah, it will be a package. We're going to also add an init file here as well. To make it a package, just keep it empty. This is just a file that needs to be present. And here now we can create the two files, routes.py and models.py. And this is going to be the structure of each blueprint. So I can create another one here. I can create the blueprint people, for example. And I will do the same thing. I can copy these files. I can put them in here. Of course, the code is going to be a different one later on, but we're going to have models and routes. And then I can make another one. We're going to do 3 blueprints in this video today, which I'm going to call core. Core basically to just be the home page, the default blueprint, which just displays an index page. And here I'm not going to have any models, but I'm going to have also routes, and I'm going to have an init.py file. All right, so these are now 3 blueprints, but we don't really have, or these are going to be our 3 blueprints, but we don't have them yet. So what we're going to do first is we're going to create the to-dos routes file here. So we're going to say from Flask import request render template, the usual stuff, redirect URL 4, and then what's new now, blueprint with a capital B. This is a class blueprint. And then we also want to say from, and now we need the absolute path. Now this is something important. If for some reason your development environment doesn't show you that this is possible, so if I say from blueprint app import db, if that doesn't work, if it somehow says that this is an invalid path or something, chances are you have to right click your directory, at least in PyCharm, for example, and you have to mark the directory as sources root. Then it should work. Just if you have the problem, in case you have the problem. And then if it doesn't apply right away, you might have to invalidate the caches and restart the application. And maybe we will have to do this here as well. But for now it works. So from blueprint app.blueprints.todos.models import, and here now I'm going to create a to-dos model. So this is nothing new. This is just from blueprint app.app import db. Class is going to be to do. It's going to be a db model. We did that already. Nothing new here. Table name is going to be equal to to-dos. And the fields are going to be the TID, the to-do ID basically. It's going to be a column. It's going to be an integer. And it's going to be the primary key. Then we're going to say that the to-do title is going to be equal to a column. It's going to be a string. And it's not going to be nullable. And then we're going to just copy this. I'm going to do the same thing for description. But it's going to be nullable. And then maybe done is going to be db column, db boolean. And it's also not going to be nullable because it's either going to be true or false. And then we can just define a representation dunder method here. So we can just return some stuff like angle brackets to do. And then we can use the to do title and whether it's done or not. course, you want to have this as an f string here. And then we need also get ID, even though I'm not sure if we need that or if this was just for the user. I'm not sure right now. Let's just add it here. It won't hurt. And this is now our to-do model, which we want to import here to work with it. And the functionality itself is not going to be too fancy. We did all of the stuff that we're going to do in this blueprint now. We already did, so I'm going to go through it quite quickly. The new thing here is that we now are going to create this as a blueprint. So we don't say app equals Flask. What we do is we say to-dos equals blueprint, and now we have to name the blueprint. It's going to be to-dos. We're going to pass here underscore underscore name underscore underscore, and we're going to define a template folder, which is going to be templates. The same way we did it for the application. So this is what we do for an application. Here we just add a blueprint name. And this is what we're going to register now later on in our Appy file. So this is the blueprint, and I can do the same thing now. To-dos, instead of app.route, to-dos.route, and the default route here is going to be slash, and we're going to say that we want to have an index, and all we want to do here is we want to get all the to-dos from the database. So to-do query all, and then return, and we're going to render a template. Now what's important here is the structure or the convention, the best practice way to do it is to create a directory templates here, like this, and then inside of it to use the same name of the blueprint again. So to-dos, templates, to-dos, like this. And here now we place our index HTML file, for example. Now this brings us to another point. We have a base template. Now let's just return an empty string for now to not have an error here. We want to use a base template for all the different blueprints. And because of that, we're going to create also, let's close the blueprints here. We're going to create here in the application itself a directory templates. And this templates directory will contain the base HTML template. Base HTML. Now this one I'm going to copy because I don't want to waste too much time writing code that we have already written before. So that is that. We have again just our simple, actually we don't need this because we don't have Bootstrap, and we also don't need this. But this is basically our blueprint. We have, or not blueprint, our template. We have here the base template with the title and the content block, and then we just fill it up with the other HTML files. And here now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just extend. So I'm going to say here extends base HTML. Nothing new here. We did that before. Also, again, I'm going to fill the block title, end block. The title is going to be to-dos. And then we're going to fill up the block content. And we're going to do end block. And what we want to do now for the index route is we just want to get all the to-dos, and then we want to say return render template. And here now we need to say to-dos / index HTML, because remember we have a to-dos directory in the templates directory itself. And we pass people equals people. Sorry, not people. To-dos equals to-dos, like this. Now, this object we can now use again here and display it. So we can say unordered list, and then I can do for to-do in to-dos and for, and I can just use list items here to show all the to-dos individually, of course. So that is a simple index route, and then just so we have another endpoint here as well, we're going to use a create endpoint. So we're going to say to-dos.route. We're going to say the endpoint is /create, and we're going to allow for methods get and post. We're going to say create like this, and we're going to say if request method is equal to get, we're going to just return an HTML file. Otherwise, if request.method is equal to post, we're going to do something else. So here I'm just going to return render template, and I'm going to return a to-dos create.html, which we don't have yet. So I'm going to copy, paste the index HTML. I'm going to call it create. I'm going to delete all this here. And I'm going to have a simple form that I can use here. So I'm going to say h1 create to do form. Again, I'm rushing through this because all of this we have already done. This is just a repetition. The new thing is the blueprints now. So I'm going to say here URL for todos.create, and method is equal to post. And then we're going to have our fields here. So we're going to have input type text, which is going to be the title of the to-do. So the name is going to be title. The placeholder is going to be title. And required is going to be equal to required. Then we're going to say here input type text description. Come on. Description not required. And then we're going to have a checkbox with the name done. And here we're just going to say in the end done. And finally input type submit, and the value is going to be equal to create. All right, so this is going to be our form, and all we have to do now is we have to get the attributes. Title is going to be equal to request form get title. It's mandatory, so we don't have to check if it's there or not. And for the description, we're going to say request dot form get description. And for done, we're going to say it's true if done is in request form keys. So if the checkbox is checked, it's going to be part of the keys, otherwise not. So we want to set it to false if not. And we want to set also the description to null if it's empty. So we're going to say description is equal to description if description is not equal to an empty string, otherwise it's going to be none. So that is that. And then we're just going to create a new to-do like this. We're going to say that the name is equal to name, the description is equal to description, and done is equal to done. And then all we have to do is db session add to do, db session commit. And of course, we don't need name, we need title. There you go. And then we return a redirect to, and now this is also important, when we do URL for now, we need to say it's not index, it's to-do's index, because we might have another index in another blueprint, and that's a different one, of course. So everything you see here, except for maybe this blueprint line, is stuff that we already did, I think, in 2 videos. And also this is not new, and this is also not new. So all of this is already something that we have done before. Also the model. Now what's new is how to get this into the application. And how we do that is we register the blueprints. So we do that in the create app function. We just go ahead and say from blueprints import to-dos. Now to-dos is not a file. To-dos is our to-dos blueprint that we defined up here. This is what we want to import. And this is also what we want to register. So we have to say now app.register blueprint, and we register our to-dos blueprint. And the important thing now is you want to associate a prefix with it. So URL underscore prefix, because you will have multiple of those. And what I want to do here, for example, is just slash to-dos. What this means is that in order to get to my index here, I don't have to say just slash. I have to say to-dos slash. And to get to create, I cannot just go to URL slash create. I have to go to URL slash to-dos slash create. That is what the prefix is for. Now I'm not going to run the application yet. We're going to finish all the blueprints before we look at this. And the good thing is that all of this can be easily just copy pasted, at least for the person or for the people blueprints. I'm going to delete all this, and I'm going to just copy paste everything here. So from here to, no, just this stuff here, copy and paste. Now somehow it doesn't work, so let me do that in the Files Explorer. To-dos. Seems to be a bit buggy. Now it works. There you go. And all we have to do now is we have to adjust the obvious parts. So for example, the model is not going to be to-dos or to-do. It's going to be person. The table name is going to be people. It's not going to be a TID. It's going to be a PID. It's going to be a name instead of a title. And it's going to be an age, which is going to be an integer instead of the description. And it's going to be a job. It's going to be a job instead of a done, and it's going to be a string. And it's going to be down here a person, and the person will have a name and age like this, and it's going to be a return PID. So that is how we change the model. For the routes, of course, what we need to do is we need to change that it's not the to-dos blueprint, it's the people blueprint. It's not the name to-dos, it's the name people. It's also not import from to-dos models, it's import from people models, and it's going to be import person. Let me just adjust my chair, it's making some noises here. It's going to be the person model. It's not going to be add to-dos route, it's going to be add people route. Down here as well. And here it's not going to be to-dos equals to-do query, it's going to be people equals person query all, and it's going to be not to-dos slash index, it's going to be people slash index, and it's going to be people equals people. We of course also have to rename now here this name. It's not going to be people templates to-dos, it's going to be people templates people. And I think this is now done. Down here we're going to do also people create HTML. And here, of course, we need to also get the different fields. So it's going to be get name. It's going to be age is equal to request form get age. And we have to typecast this into an integer. Again, rushing through it because we already did it. Job is going to be equal to job. And we're going to say that this is going to be job. Job is going to be job if job is not empty, otherwise none. Here we're going to say person is equal to person. And here we're going to say name equals name, age equals age, and job equals job. I'm going to add the person, and we're not redirecting to to-dos index, even though we could do that here. We will redirect to people index. Now, this should already be okay. Now we only have to change these two things. We need to change this to people here. We need to change this to person in people. We need to change this to person. And then for create, we have to adjust a little bit more. First of all, again, people. Create person. Then people create. And then here we want to have name. Name. Then we want to have input type number, age. Then we want to copy this. It's just going to be job. And just submit. There you go. So this should be it. Now we have our second blueprint. What do we do to register it? We go to Appy. We say from blueprint app.blueprints.people.routes import the people blueprint, and then register the blueprint people with the prefix /people. So we have in both files here, you can see we have index and create, and they have the same pattern here, but they're different because they have different prefixes. Now, finally, what I want to do is I want to implement the core blueprint, which is not going to be super fancy. It's just going to be a simple HTML file that is rendered by default. So we're going to go here. We're going to create also here a templates directory with another core directory in it. And we're going to copy here the index. And we're going to also copy the routes, just so we don't have to write every basic stuff from scratch. But what we're going to do now is we're going to say that the blueprint is called core, not people. And we also don't need to import any models here. So we're just going to call this core. And we're going to have core route, which is going to be index. And this is just going to render the core index HTML, but we're not going to pass any objects. And that is going to be our blueprint. That's it. We don't even need a database. So just like this. And we also don't need all the imports. We just need render template and blueprint. And our index file will do nothing but just link to the two other pages, just so we have a landing page, a home page. So href is going to be URL4. And here now we can say to-dos, index, to-dos, like this. And then we can say here people index for people. And that is actually all I want to do here. I think maybe we can add a heading, h1 homepage or something, and we can say here core, something like this. And now all we have to do is we have to register this and we're done. So since this is going to be our default page, I'm going to say from blueprint app, blueprints, core routes. We're going to import core. And now I'm going to register this. And it's going to have no URL prefix, just a slash. So this is going to be our default index, so to say. Now, of course, what's important is we need to create a database. So let's go ahead and navigate to our current directory. Let's go to blueprint app. Let's do Flask db init. No module named blueprint app blueprints. Why is that the case? Oh, I think this is one thing that I forgot to do. I wanted to place all of them into a blueprints directory, just to have a little bit more of an overview. So blueprints is going to be a directory, and I'm going to copy, or I'm going to move core people and to-dos into this directory. Now, I did this in my prepared code, which is why I did the imports like that, blueprint app, and then blueprints core routes, and not just blueprint app core routes. But now it should work. So we do here Flask db init, Flask db migrate, Flask db upgrade. And once this is done, we can go into our run py file. We can run it. We can go to our application here. And we can click on to-dos. Now to-dos is empty. Oh, one thing that I wanted to do, maybe this would be useful, is we can go to templates, we can go to index, and we want to have a link that links to URL4 to-dos create. I can copy this into the people index as well, just so we don't have to use the URL bar to make these changes. So let's restart the application, go here, to-dos, create, and now I can say test, whatever, done, create. Stuff, not done, create. There you go. And then we can go back, we can go to people, create, person. There you go. So you can see this works, and this is how we connect all these blueprints. You can see the URL patterns here, people, create, and then if I go back, to-dos, and then to-dos, create. So this is how we integrate all these blueprints, and this is the core blueprint here. So yeah, this is how you work with blueprints in Flask. This is how you make your applications more modular and professional. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting the like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thanks much for watching. See you in the next video, and bye.